Hi, everyone. Welcome back from lunch. I'm going to start us off very briefly on giving a bit of an introduction to the next focus area that we want to talk about, which is the Community Data Lab. It actually sits within the connections focus area of the HASS and Indigenous RDC. So the Community Data Lab develops the data sets, tools and guidance that allow HASS researchers to take full advantage of the opportunities presented by collections data. This activity responds to two core challenges. One is that for HASS researchers, GLAM collections are this incredible, rich source of data. But for GLAM organisations, supporting researchers is a goal. It's very important, but it's not their primary purpose. And particularly when times are difficult, it's very difficult for GLAM organisations to support researchers to support GLAM research, to support researchers to access their collections as data. And then the other challenge that we're responding to is, as we've discussed earlier, the diversity of HASS researchers and their workflows, and the need for infrastructure to address varied researcher needs. So in the CDL, our aim is to act as the bridge between researchers and the rich data present in GLAM collections, and to do so in a way that allows us to meet the needs of as many researchers as possible by, rather than trying to find an entire workflow that we can support, instead trying to find common parts of workflows, common needs across many different disciplines and supporting those. So in the 2020 Research Infrastructure Investment Plan, the Department of Education earmarked some investment to provide researchers with new tools for visualization, entity recognition, transcription and geocoding across Trove content and other corpora. So Trove being one of those very rich resources for HASS researchers. And following a co-design process with the research community, this ended up being delivered through two activities. So one was enhancements to the Trove API, so sitting with the NLA to improve how access to Trove itself works. And the other was the Community Data Lab provided by the ARDC, which provides some of the tooling that's needed for researchers to use that data more effectively. And that first Community Data Lab, that's phase one of the Community Data Lab, that produced a set of outputs that included the brilliant Trove data guide created by Tim Sherratt, which takes researchers who are unfamiliar with working with data through APIs and guides them step by step through that process and shows what can be done with this data. It's a fantastic resource, as well as a number of other tools, including text analytic tools and Glycerin, which allows you to annotate image information, and some pilot code for working with geospatial data. So a great set of introductory tools that were placed there. And along with this set of initial outputs, we also developed some core principles for building sustainable research tools for HASS. So these principles consider how we can maintain benefit in an environment where ongoing investment to support infrastructure, it's not always available. And where that investment is available, it's not always continuous. So often HASS infrastructure suffers from this stop-start funding cycle. And we wanted to take what we'd learned from building those initial sets of tools and provide some information out about ways that in the broader community, HASS infrastructure could be provided that would help to protect against that stop-start nature. And so that initial set of principles were a preference for infrastructure at rest. So infrastructure that can be packed down into a repository as code that doesn't require a costly ongoing maintenance cycle to stay afloat. The need to separate data from analytics so that the data itself can still be used and valued even when the analytical tools and platforms are no longer sustained. A need for overall efficiency and flexibility in the design of platforms, making sure that we reuse and make use of international standards, and a need for reusable code and open source code and open access guidance documents so that we aren't needing to constantly redo things from the start, to make the best possible use of what we can do with what's available for HASS research. So that was just the first phase of the Community Data Lab. But I'm going to pass over to my colleague, Jamie, who's going to talk through the new developments in the area.
Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. So my name's Jamie Archer. I'm product manager for the HASS Indigenous RDC at ARDC, as kindly and rather embarrassingly introduced by Rosie earlier. Yes, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the evolution of CDL. So phase one saw the building of tools and guides like the Trove data guide and the GLAM workbench. Phase two is where we're in now, and that really builds on the tools and guides. And I will go into explaining those in more detail. Phase three is really about building a product out of the Community Data Lab. So you'll see from the items in phase two that they're interconnected and deliver value as one thing. And so that's where we really see phase three and future phases of CDL going. So what's in CDL phase two? Phase two brings together groups of researchers from across Australian institutions. So research software engineers and researchers to build tools and guides to support researchers with common workflows and to increase their ability to work with openly available data sets. So in no particular order, some of the tools that will be delivered as part of these projects include a platform and service built on established digital humanities software to enable easy publishing and archiving of digital collections. Next, tools to support analysis of RO crate data and digitized documents, addressing gaps in the usability and reusability of digital resources in HASS research. Next, a platform to make public interest documents, such as federal Hansards and public inquiries, more accessible, reusable, and impactful for research. And finally, a project to develop recommended patterns and practices in HASS software engineering, improving the capability of research software engineers and enabling greater technical collaboration. And so these are delivered through the four key projects you see there. So Curated Collections, Enhanced Analytics, Rapid, and RSC SEP. So the first project is titled Curated Collections. Its aim is to enable the easy publishing and archiving of digital collections. It's a partnership with the University of Sydney and will be delivered by Dr. Gordon McDonald, Mike Lynch, and team. So as many of you know, a common requirement in HASS research is the ability to make digital research collections available online. This aligns with open research principles and is often tied to grant funding applications, such as ARC grants. However, in practice, this has led to a number of costly, bespoke websites being created, built using a mix of commercial and open source platforms. These sites often require specialized technical skills to maintain, may lack robust security, and are often built on fragile infrastructure. The result of this is a short shelf life, unfortunately. So why does this problem matter to users? Well, because many important research collections are currently hosted on legacy platforms that are themselves outdated. This creates a major challenge for users who rely on these collections for their work and their ongoing research. More broadly, there's no consistent or sustainable methodology for processing, publishing, and sharing enduring digital collections. That lack of standardization leads to fragmentation, inefficiency, and lost opportunities. And this project is the start to try and fix that. So there are several user groups experiencing these pain points who stand to gain significantly from a solution in this space. First and foremost, HASS researchers, especially those needing to publish data or document workflows or share their collections online. Some example projects that will be included in this include Transforming the East, which is Jesuit translations of Chinese classics, or ethnomusicology studies that collect audiovisual recordings of musical resilience among marginalized communities. But the benefits extend beyond researchers. Participants in these studies, as well as staff and collaborators who support the research, will also benefit. So what will it actually deliver? Well, fundamentally, a platform for enduring HASS collections, built on digital humanities software that's already established and deployed on AMICA-S. Designed so researchers can build and maintain collections without needing specialized technical support. Designed so users can easily publish content, ensuring that collections are searchable, accessible, and reusable. And designed so it can support importing existing archive formats, making it simple to migrate legacy collections. The Curated Collections project is aiming to develop an RO-Crate import-export toolkit. This means AMICA-S HASS digital research collections are a potential source of RO-Crates for the Enhanced Analytics project, which I'll also talk to later on. And to validate this, the team will migrate a sample of key collections that are at risk, acting as a bit of a minimum viable product and showing real value. All of this will be fully documented, and the solution will be released as a code base and container that other Australian institutions can adopt and reuse. And finally, we're aiming to develop a sustainability model where collections are actively maintained while funded and then transition to a low dependency archival format afterwards. So just to reiterate the value, there are 4 key areas where this project will deliver value. Number 1, through the preservation of high value HASS and Indigenous collections, ensuring they remain accessible and usable over time. Second, through the creation of a sustainable publishing template for these types of collections, removing the need to reinvent infrastructure for each new project. And third, via the reduction of overheads associated with these costly bespoke websites that we often see, saving time, money, and technical effort. And finally, through the improved availability and findability of existing collections. All of this is being done in adherence with the architectural principles, or will be done in adherence with the architectural principles in the RSE SET project, which I'll also come to a bit later on. So as I mentioned before, Enhanced Analytics is involved in the CDL. This is the second project. Its aim is to address gaps in usability and reusability of digital resources in HASS research. It's a project in partnership with the University of Melbourne and will be delivered by Nick Geard and the MDAP team. So what's the problem that needs to be solved? Well, working with digital resources is becoming increasingly common in HASS research, as we've covered today. And a number of common tools and formats exist, which is fantastic. However, limitations with this tooling inhibit uptake and therefore limit the value that can be gained. This project will deliver specific software tooling to address important gaps and to increase the usability and reusability of digital resources in HASS research. Current methods in the sector rely heavily on human-mediated transcription of such documents, which is expensive and time-consuming. These new tools will allow a much wider range of researchers access to old texts and other research materials, facilitating transnational and transdisciplinary research. For instance, one case study may be 15th to 19th century documents where historical text analysis is required, or the requirement to search through ancient text in a more structured, programmatic way. This project will help with that. And so when we talk about users in this situation, who are they? Who has the problem that we're going to be addressing? So these are fundamentally HASS and Indigenous researchers in 3 core areas. So those using RO crates to store data, or those who want to access data already stored in RO crates. Those researchers working with collection items that have descriptions stored in physical formats, such as index cards or labels. And researchers working with imperfect historical textual documents, commonly published on institutional repositories. Examples of these include Trove, National Estate Archives, as well as international repos like Gallica. To meet these needs, the partnership will deliver the following things. So first, tools to support the use, analysis, and visualization of RO crate collections. So this allows us to package and share research outputs in a structured, machine-readable format. Second, we're developing a generalized pipeline that extracts structured data from digitized specimen sheets using a combination of object detection, OCR, and vision LLMs. This significantly improves the accuracy and scalability of data extraction. And third, we're implementing workflows that enable us to compile and semantically search imperfect text from PDFs. making previously inaccessible or fragmented information searchable and reusable. Together, these will improve how users interact and derive insights at scale. Okay, so just to reiterate the value again. So first, by simplifying how non-technical researchers interact with, analyze, and visualize the contents of existing RO crates. This builds on the excellent foundational work of the University of Melbourne and other collaborators. Second, it will empower curators and collection managers to transcribe and correct digital textual data from physical labels and annotations within their collections. This will significantly enhance the findability, interoperability, and contextual richness of their data. And finally, we're enabling the collection and indexing of imperfect digital texts, such as 19th century Hansards, to support keyword and semantic search. And that will come up shortly in the RAPID project. Through RO crates and integration across curated collections and enhanced analytics, we're beginning to shape a clear, unified direction under the Community Data Lab product. Just gonna have some water, some talk. Okay, so third project, RAPID. This is a partnership with the University of Queensland, be delivered by QUT, QSIF, and UQ. So its aim is to make public interest document collections more accessible, reusable, and impactful. So as many of you know, public interest documents play a vital role in providing transparency around government outputs. These include records such as Hansards from federal and state, public submissions, transcripts of hearings, and many others. In recent years, there's been commendable progress in making these documents more openly accessible. However, a persistent last mile challenge remains. So most documents are shared as standalone files for human reading rather than machine reading. So systematic machine analysis is tricky, or if not impossible. So this limits usability and makes it difficult to extract insights at scale. So why does this problem matter to users? Well, because some of the most important public interest documents, those that provide transparency and accountability, are effectively out of reach for systematic analysis. They exist, but they're locked away in formats that are difficult to work with at scale. The cost of transforming and processing this data is often high, both in terms of time and technical effort. As a result, promising projects are frequently scaled back or even abandoned. For example, consider the use case of someone who wishes to construct a precise query in federal parliament in a particular time frame. Currently, this type of analysis is limited due to analytical or metadata constraints. RAPID aims to improve the impact that can be gained from this type of analysis. So this is just taking a look at the users, this kind of thing. So this aims to benefit a wide range of HASS researchers, as well as users in the civil sector and related organizations. By doing this work, we'll enable greater public engagement through systematic research into areas of public importance. These users often extend into other disciplines. I've listed a few there, but there's many more that will stand to benefit. So what will actually be delivered? This project is designed to deliver real impact in 3 ways. First, by building a platform to make public interest documents, starting with federal Hansard records and materials from public inquiries and reviews, more accessible to a wide audience. That includes researchers, civil society organizations, and the general public. Second, by establishing a metadata standard for public interest documents that aligns with FAIR principles. And third, by supporting researchers through the creation and documentation of research workflows and use cases. So these will span both computational and qualitative approaches, helping users navigate and apply the data more effectively. As I mentioned earlier in relation to the Enhanced Analytics project, these two are closely linked. There's a shared dependency around publishing 19th century Hansards with support for keyword and semantic search. So what are the key outcomes and where will it deliver value? Firstly, by making high-value public interest documents easily accessible to a wider audience. Second, by creating a comprehensive and searchable directory of government-run public inquiries and reviews, along with a searchable index of submissions to major inquiries. This will be a powerful resource for researchers, journalists, and civil society organizations. Third, we're enabling new research workflows, which will help make existing research more ambitious, more impactful, and more widely applicable. This includes providing training guides and other useful information. But fundamentally, the real value lies in empowering researchers to produce outcomes that benefit the Australian public, whether through new insights, deeper understanding, or more informed decision-making. And on to the final one. I won't read out the full title, because it's too long, but I'll describe it as RSE SEP. So its aim is to strengthen software engineering and HASS research. It's a partnership with ANU, and we delivered by Professor James Smithies and team. So the HASS research community faces a significant challenge, which is a shortage of research software engineering expertise, led to fragmented and inconsistent software development in the sector. And while there's been excellent progress made by individuals, the tools and techniques they've developed are not widely shared, resulting in uneven maturity and varied approaches across disciplines and research efforts. Researchers and technical teams often lack access to architectural guidance, roadmaps, and recommended patterns or models to support their work. This gap makes it harder to build sustainable, interoperable, and impactful digital research infrastructure. I mean, fundamentally, it matters because it leads to real and growing challenges, especially with the growth in technology. Without consistent RSE capability across the HASS research community, we see inefficiencies in technical delivery, heightened cybersecurity risks, and difficulty sustaining research software beyond the life of individual projects. Without a coordinated effort to build shared methods and technical guidance, the sector will struggle to leverage computational approaches. And it's especially critical now with the rise of AI, SLMs, LLMs. Researchers will need clear guidance on how to use these and responsibly integrate them into HASS research. So here's a list of some of the users, who will see real value from a solution in this space. So at the top, HASS researchers who rely on software, analytical tools, and digital methods to support their work. Researchers who code, those bridging the gap between research and technical implementation. RSEs, working with academic and cultural institutions. General software engineers and developers contributing to research projects. Technical managers and staff in the GLAM sector who support digital collections and research infrastructure. By addressing the gaps in tooling, guidance, and sustainability, this project will help these users work more effectively. So unlike some of the other projects, the RSE initiative can be a little harder to visualize in terms of output. So here's a sample of what will be delivered. First, building on the CDL architectural principles, it will be evolved into version 2. This will center around the pillars framework with fair and safe principles embedded as foundational elements. Second, a technology roadmap for CDL, a practical guide to help researchers choose the right tools and technologies for their work. Third, producing an actionable guide for research software engineers around research software engineering patterns and RDM patterns. And finally, we'll deliver a collaboration platform, a space where researchers, developers, and stakeholders can connect, share knowledge, and work together more effectively. Fundamentally, it will deliver value in 4 ways: through increased software engineering capability, through greater collaboration by sharing technical solutions and patterns across the HASS research community, and via the creation of a recognizable community of practice around all the product artifacts. Finally, support and knowledge sharing will be critical, and where we will see the real value from this project. So that's the 4 projects. So in summary, the Community Data Lab is designed to address the challenges of working with digitized cultural and historical collections. It offers a suite of tools, datasets, and guides that empower researchers to explore, analyze, and publish data from Australia's HASS and Indigenous collections, where they're shared in galleries, libraries, archives, museums, and other research or cultural institutions. By working together with our partners through co-design, we're creating tools and platforms that will help accelerate research using Australia's rich cultural and historical data to tell meaningful stories of Australian people, culture, and society, and deepen our collective understanding. Okay, thank you. How are we doing for time?
Yeah, we've got time for some questions.
Cool. You filled in?
I will.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. One is GLAM partners, so who your GLAM partners are on this one. I think I know, I'm just double checking, I guess, because as you talk about it, it's a startup kind of moving towards, I mean, I've been using this stupid language, startup and small to medium enterprise, but do you know what I mean? Like, so where you are at in the phase of thing, it's not like GLAM writ large, so just getting some precision around, who you're actually engaging with in this one. And then I guess the uptake of it, like how do you ensure or want to ensure that HASS actually takes full value out of this? How do we get there?
Okay, I reckon first part me, second part you. So in terms of GLAM partners, actually in this phase, we do not have any immediate GLAM partners on any of these projects. Is that correct? And that's because it's been taking a little time to work out what those partnerships will be. So what we have done is put in a submission for funds in the recent NCRIS application. And there we have a fairly extensive list of partners. And the approach that we're trying to take there is around uplifting, similar to the Trove API example, looking at how we can support the uplift of collections where they sit within GLAM, so that, because sustaining those collections is part of the core business of those organisations. And so where they are interested in looking at metadata improvements and looking at access improvements, in looking at improvements in structure, which will benefit researchers, but which will form part of their business as usual, maintenance of those collections. We've identified a number of those. I don't know if I should, nothing has been, I won't talk about anyone, I won't name any names, but there's some names I'm quite happy about, and I'll be excited, hopefully, if the department comes through and is supportive of that application, we'll be able to work with quite a large number of our national GLAM organisations on that. So no, good question, good observation, and we're on it.
And the second question was about outreach and understanding. My background's in commercial and business, where you leverage the power of marketing. What I would love to do is be able to do that a bit more with a great ARDC outreach team. I think they'll be able to support greatly, but the key thing that I've understood since moving into this sector is the power of the individuals that use the tools and guides, and leveraging them, leveraging the community to help with outreach, help understanding and growth in the sector. I think the RSE project, for its collaboration platform, will be brilliant at that. And fundamentally, I think the people that work in this sector, they love what they do, they love the subject, and I think leveraging that is really important. We've seen it work in other parts of ARDC as well, and so I think that can be brought into the HASS and Indigenous RDC.
Yeah, and I think notice that in the plans for each of these projects, they all involve levels of user involvement and community involvement through their design. And I think that that's going to help to build communities of those users who can then become champions of the products, but also to help us to make sure that what is being built is really relevant to people, which is so important to use.
Kit has a question. Kit?
Is it coming through now?
What number's the mic?
Oh, we've got it.
Three in
Sorry,
front of me.
three mics being
I know, and none of
in the
them
back.
coming through.
We've got one.
It's worth it for the question. It's from Judith on the chat. she's saying, will voice transcription tools be part of the pipeline for extracting structured data, for example, from interviews? She's saying she's asked that because she sees HASS researchers struggling with interview data transcription at scale and the time required for manual coding.
Off the top of my head, I'll be honest, I don't know. But I can find out, Judith, and let you know.
And I can say that I don't believe that voice transcription is a part of any of our current plans, but it is really, I understand that it is a priority, and we are still building out. So the Community Data Lab is planned to be a continuing, ongoing series of phases, putting in place the tools that researchers need. So I think that that is an important one. And if anyone else in the room has any priorities that they want to raise, we are always paying attention and keeping track as we build our plans. And I see a question.
Not a question, just
A statement.
just a statement. We have a prototype transcription built at the moment. We're just testing it. So if it works well, and we will get a community to test it with over the next couple of months or so. Thanks. I'm Sach Jasinger, CEO of QCIF. Thank you.
Great. So watch QCIF, and maybe we'll be in touch. Anyone have any other questions? Anything else online? How are we going for time?
Plenty of time.
We have a lot of time, folks. There's
Time for ARDC.
chat. Yes, we've got one here.
Thank you. Monica Bednarik from the University of Sydney. Just a question about the public interest documents. You mentioned Hansard. Are you also looking at government reports or on issues like, you know, the disability or bringing them home, all of those things? Is that part of your plan?
I'd actually might pass the mic to Michael, if that's all right.
So I think as part of the project, we're trying to scope out into that kind of area because actually public interest documents is very large, right? And we're working with some other partners who weren't actually listed. There's quite a few other people involved who have expertise working with public inquiries, reports and so on. There's a little bit of overlap, which we're trying to make sure we don't step into. There's some existing platforms where they do collect up the law one, and also APO do some work in this area. So we're part of the scoping is trying to figure out where the gaps are, which we know, but part of it's trying to cost that, right? What would it cost to do these things as well? And we need the other bits of CDL phase 2 built so that it will become a lot easier to do. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I'll run this one out.
Thanks, Amanda Lawrence from Australian Internet Observatory. Just wondering how RSEs will engage with the software development process, and yeah, maybe a little bit more about kind of the how that will roll out.
Yeah, I'll just flip back to the slide.
We've got a few.
Which one is it? So I think through the items that are delivered here, so the four things you see on screen. So fundamental, in my view, is the collaboration platform. You see the benefit of collaboration platforms in software engineering more generally in the commercial world. I think we should be able to leverage the power of that in the HASS and research software engineering space as well. I think that's going to be key through each of the other projects. They're going to be engaging with RSE as well. I'm going to pass on to PT as well, who's going to help answer.
Hi. So I'm going to be working on this project. So one answer to who asked that question?
Amanda.
Well, so one answer is however you want. So tell us. But the plans that we have at the moment would include setting up some. So we've already presented at a RSC conference, so we'll be getting to venues like that to open it up for comment. But the cheapest thing we can do, I think, is to have some drop-in sessions that we'll publicise, where we'll be kind of office hours. There'll be people sitting on Zoom for an hour at regular times, and people can drop in and have a chat and say what they need. We can start drafting things and putting them out for comment, and then it can evolve. So like there's not a huge budget for travel or anything like that. So but I think there's a lot we can do, and we've had great success in some other areas by just getting online and letting people come and ask questions.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we'll be pushing out information about all of that as it comes along through a number of different channels, but one of them will be the HASS and Indigenous ARDC newsletter. So I'm assuming everyone here is already signed up, and you'll be hearing a lot about these activities as they move forward. Anyone have any other questions?
The tall, handsome gentleman in the seat on the post.
So while I'm here, also on this project, I'll try and phrase this as a question. I'm not sure if it is. Would it be useful to the ARDC to take some of the outcomes from this RSC SEP project, technical roadmaps, principles, and turn them into something like requirements when people are putting in new projects, which would be a change from the way you do things at the moment, where there are very few requirements of this nature?
I think that talking about requirements is tricky when the activities that we do are so varied. But I think having a set of, so I'd have to sit down and think, but I would say that at least having a set of principles or, potential requirements, and then asking people, will you be working to this or not? If not, why not? Why is this not applicable? Why does this not make sense in your sector or for your product? I think makes sense, I think, not just for ARDC infrastructure, but for a wide number of HASS infrastructure developments. It's one of the benefits of doing work like this. I think we seem to be running out of questions. Does anyone want to, given that we've got 10 minutes?
7 minutes.
7 minutes. We can fill 7 minutes. I would love to talk to you all about I'd love to ask whether you have any priorities for work of this type. So work that aims to connect researchers to GLAM collections. Are there particular tools, needs that you've identified that, obviously, just 4 projects today, but is there anything that you see as a priority for the next few years? Any challenges that you've had?
Thanks. Speaking not really as a researcher, but just as someone using the library catalogue, New South Wales State Library, I noticed that, with the metadata, there needs to be a lot of improvement, because sometimes you do a search for a particular search term, like say LGBT, and you get completely different results as if you search for LGBTQI or things like that. So there seems to be a lack of standardization there. I don't know to what extent that's more widespread, but I just noticed that as a user, it was difficult to get consistent results. And I assume that's based on how they're doing the metadata. But I don't know if that's at all within your scope, but you did mention metadata earlier, so I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, that's definitely the kind of thing that we're interested in, is uplifting, looking at how metadata is recorded and looking at what researchers need around metadata and how that can be improved. So what we're hoping to do, I'll come back down to the front. What we're hoping to do is to bring together GLAM organisations and then researchers who want to make use of their data more effectively, and so that the researchers can help to inform the requirements and inform how the GLAM organisations work.
Hi, I'm Hayley. I'm from UTS Library. I work at CEDA, which is a specialised Indigenous data archive. And I guess our concern over the next few years is as GLAM archives become digitised, Indigenous data is kind of getting thrown in with everything, and our concern is actually overexposure of Indigenous data. Not all Indigenous data should be thrown in with everything, and our concern, I think, as Indigenous communities is the care and access of Indigenous data, and who has access to it and how it's being cared for. Because researchers and the communities who are having access to it, it needs to be cared for in proper ways. And as everything gets digitised, it's not always being curated in the correct way, as it wasn't necessarily catalogued in the correct way when it was processed.
I think there's a few aspects I can immediately think of in response to that. And so one of them is that I think appropriate care for Indigenous data falls less within the scope of this work and more within the scope of the Indigenous research capability work, and also is covered by some of the work that LDACA are working on around identifying where there's how Indigenous communities look after their data. But it does make me think, in some of the conversations we've had with some of our potential GLAM partners, there's been some discussion about how we can leverage AI to enhance metadata. And while that does make the hair go up on the back of my neck a little bit, I certainly wouldn't want AI to be in an unsupported way identifying Indigenous content within collections. Something that was assisting people to go, hang on, check this before it goes out, because you might want to make sure that it's appropriate that this is open, could be helpful and might fall within the scope of the kind of AI-supported metadata creation. You know, flags saying this needs a human to look at it might be something that's possible. Did anyone else anyone more informed than me want to speak to that point?
I'm not informed, but the only thing I wanted to say was that, so the Academy sits on GLAM Peak, and so as part of that, you know, we're connected into some of the discussions. And at one of the last GLAM Peak meetings, there was a terrific presentation by the NFSA, National Film and Sound Archive, around their AI, Bowerbird. And Keir Wine-Smith gave the presentation, and it was, you know, short and sweet and like just kind of rapid fire, but it was really like total lessons learned about how to use AI. I mean, this is my interpretation of it, you know, to in effect listen to, I don't know, 9 years worth of content, say, for example, you know, so it was audio content and whatever. And then obviously train it in respectful, meaningful ways to, you know, with a set of principles. So they've got a driving set of principles that are actually, you know, we're all looking at, you know, as being touchstones. And he, you know, I think, so yeah, so I guess my point is around some of the leadership within GLAM, you know, and so I think there's some really good cross-fertilisation that can happen across these projects. And also, I mean, you know, I do think they need to be research-led. That's what research infrastructure is all about. But, you know, where we can achieve common ends in a way and work together in those sorts of ways. And I guess, you know, we've heard presentations where people are looking at, you know, really manual collections and deep, you know, fieldwork type work, you know, but how do we accelerate some of the processes through AI? And I think, you know, we need to be in on that big time to ensure we're doing it with a careful lens, you know.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one of the angles that we're exploring is taking some of the incredible work that's being done within GLAM organisations and looking at how those who are leading can support others who would benefit from their collections. Okay, I haven't been paying close enough attention. Oh, and I'm getting the wrap it up signal. Okay, was this, yes, okay. I'm really sorry, I'm being pointed this way.
So I was just going to say that we didn't actually have time to get into it, but there is some work on this going on in the Improving Indigenous Research Capabilities project. There are a number of different methodologies that we've been employing to identify Indigenous data within collections, which Boyega could talk about in far more detail than I could. But that is certainly work that we have been addressing and will continue to expand upon in a variety of different contexts. So let's catch up.